So we're going to use the power property to solve equations involving radicals. So the first example that we have is x minus square root of 4x plus 12 is equal to 0. So whenever you're working with radicals, you want to have each radical on one side by itself. So for this problem, I'm going to add square root of 4x plus 12 to both sides so that I can have just the square root on one side of the equation. So after I do that, I get x equals square root of 4x plus 12. And then what I'm going to do, so square root is the same thing as, so square rooting something is the same thing as taking it to the 1/2 power, right? So if we want to get rid of a square root, what we can do is square it. So if we square a square root, it's exponent to another exponent. So we get 1/2 times 2, which is just 1. So that's what we're going to use, keeping in mind that the power property states that when you take a power, the equation, the solutions for this expression will be included, but you might end up with more solutions than what you have for this equation. So we'll talk about it more when we get to that point. But for now, let's square both sides. So we get x squared. When we square root and take the square of that, we just get whatever is the radicand. And now we can solve, right? So we have x squared, and it doesn't matter if you take these over or if you take x squared over, but I'm going to subtract 4x, I'm going to subtract 12, so I'm left with 0. And for this one, I can factor. Okay, so for the x squared, I'll have an x and an x. And then I want to look at factors of negative 12 that add up to be 4. So my 6 is going to be negative, my 2 is going to be positive, and when I do the multiplication out, I get negative 6x plus 2x, which I get negative 4x. So now I can apply the zero product property. Our textbook calls it the zero factor property, that if you have two things multiplied equal to 0, that either one of them is 0 or the other one's 0. So the two solutions that we get is from these two equations. And so we get x equals negative 2, and then we get x equals 6. But now we have to make sure that it makes sense within the problem that we have. So we're going to plug things back in and clarify that this is a solution for this problem. So just checking it out, negative 2 square root of 4 times negative 2 plus 12. And if we do that out, it's negative 2 square root of negative 8 plus 12. And so if we work under the radical, we get negative 8 plus 12 is positive 4. So we get a negative 2 minus 2, right? And that is not equal to 0. So negative 2 is not a solution for our original equation that we have. But it is a solution for this equation. Okay, and let's check 6. So we have 6 minus square root of 4 times 6 plus 12. And we're going to see if that is equal to 0. So we have square root of 24 plus 12. So we have 6 minus square root of 36. So we have 6 minus 6, which is equal to 0. So yes, 6 is our solution, but negative 2 is not. So once again, the power property states that when you take any equation to a power, you'll end up with at least the solutions for your original equation But like we see here, we may end up with more solutions that don't satisfy the original. And that's why when you're working with rational expressions, you always have to plug whatever you get back in to see if it works. Because just like you see here, there are cases where some solutions will work and others will not.